Good evening. I'd like to bring to order the meeting of the regular evening council for November 28th, 2022. Corporate officer, any late items or changes?
No late items, but the deletion of item 9.1 at the request of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So could I have an approval, a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Bett, all in favor? That's carried. Adoption of the minutes from November 14th, moved by Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? That's carried. No bylaws from public hearing. So we'll go straight into my report. So let's start with Light Up. Seeing the event back in its full glory with thousands of people in downtown enjoying themselves and taking it all in. Wow, what an evening. It really hit home what we've been missing the past couple of years. I had the honor of flicking the switch to turn on the Christmas lights. And thank you to all of you here who joined me on stage. Actually, it's 3 switches you have to flick, not one. I didn't know that. So. Congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce for their hard work to organize the event. And thank you to all the sponsors, performers, vendors, downtown businesses, community groups, and municipal staff who all contributed to make the event such a success. Combined with Light Up the Vines, which continues this weekend, Summerland's Festival of Lights is a great example of our community coming together to put on one of the premier attractions in the Valley. Light Up capped a busy week for council, where we spent 2 days workshopping our strategic priorities for the next 4 years. We'll continue to fine-tune our strategic plan before adopting it sometime early in the new year. But I think it's safe to say we'll be focusing on completing many of the projects that were initiated in the previous term. We also spent 2 days last week working on next year's utility budgets. Over the next few weeks, we will be putting out communications and seeking public input on proposed changes to utility rates, including a public open house scheduled for next Monday, December 5th at 5 p.m. Budget deliberations have also started at the regional district, and these will continue this week. The RDS has also made its regional board appointments, and I've been reappointed to the Okanagan Basin Water Board, or OBWB. Summerland has traditionally held a seat on the OBWB, and it's important we continue this trend as our watershed comes under increasing threat from activities like logging and wildfires. Last Monday, I attended a Zoom call for BC mayors with Municipal Affairs Minister Nathan Collin and Housing Minister Murray Rankin. They responded to questions regarding the provincial government's announcement that day that was going to be setting housing targets for select municipalities. Needless to say, everyone had questions about how the targets will be defined, how long they'll last, how they'll relate to our official community plans and efforts to limit sprawl and address climate change, and the ability of local governments to require developers to provide amenities and services necessary for development. We were told the legislation would only apply initially to the 8 to 10 municipalities with the most urgent housing needs, which will probably be the same municipalities where the speculation tax is applied. So it's unlikely Summerland will be included in the first wave of communities, but it's something we should be keeping an eye on. On November 16th, I attended the opening of the Kelowna office of Pacific Can, which is the new federal economic development agency for British Columbia. Pacific Can is currently considering our grant application for the food hub, and at the office opening, I had the opportunity to meet briefly with the minister responsible, Harjit Sajjan. I spoke to him and his staff about the importance of agriculture to the Okanagan community. Finally, I'd like to mark the passing of a former councillor in Summerland in the 1990s, George Whitty. He was a councillor from 1990 to 1999. He was also a school board trustee and a member of the credit union board, and he ran Summerland's electrical utility for many years. So we send our regards to his family. And that's my report. Thank you. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our electric utility is pleased to support the implementation of the province's one-time cost of living credit from BC Hydro. The intent of the program is to help people during these challenging times when global inflation is driving higher costs. It's estimated the $100 one-time residential bill credit can amount to approximately 1 month of electricity for a family living in a detached home, or more than 2 months of electricity for a family living in an apartment. In terms of ratepayers with commercial accounts, they will receive a one-time bill credit based on their prior year's consumption. Once the district receives the credit from the province, our staff will begin the process of adding it to individual utility bills. Unfortunately, this is a manual process, so it will take a few billing cycles. As a result, some customers may receive the credit sooner than others. For more information on this cost of living credit, visit strongerbc.gov.bc.ca/cost of living. Staff held a master planning open house regarding the rodeo grounds on November 23rd with a good turnout from the community. The feedback gathered will help formulate advice for council on the future plans and management of the 70-acre parcel on the west side of the district. Residents who could not make the session are welcome to fill out the online survey, which is on the district website until December 15th at www.summerland.ca. Leaves have taken their time to drop given the warm fall this year, so we're offering one additional unlimited yard and garden waste curbside collection in the regular scheduled curbside collection starting tomorrow. For more information on preparing your yard and garden waste, residents can visit the district's website or can contact Works and Infrastructure at 250-494-0431 if there are any further questions. Finally, I wanted to acknowledge the hard work of staff in supporting another successful Light Up Summerland event held on Friday. It was wonderful to see the community come together again after a long hiatus through the pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for either of us? No? Okay, so public comment. It's not a whole lot of things that can be commented on. There's nobody in the audience. This is for something on the agenda. Okay. Please stand up. If you could just state your name and civic address for the record, please.
Robert Hacking, 7720 Prairie Valley Road. Just speaking to the committee of the whole resolution. So resolution 47 for agenda item 11.1. Just regarding the bylaw, having staff prepare a bylaw amendment regarding the utility discount changes. I agree that having the discount on the first month seems to be a backwards way of doing it, but I'm sure there's a better and more equitable way to actually address the issue, because people who pay on time now are going to be looking at a 10% bill increase, just like that. The current system after the first month, if you do not pay, you pay the standard amount, which is effectively a 10% fee. The district is fairly, well, aggressive is the wrong word, but they're motivated, and bill shutoffs usually occur within about 3 months for most clients. So it's a very, the system is set up so people are encouraged to pay for it promptly. What I just want to see is maybe a different perspective taken to the people who do pay on time, just looking at effectively getting a 10% utility increase. And those who do not pay on time are just looking at a 2% increase. So I'm sure there's a more equitable way to address that issue, and I'm sure the staff can probably come up with the math to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will be having an open house a week tonight as well. For those comments, if you want to bring your comments there, it'd be appreciated, but otherwise they're on record, so that's fine. Anybody else for an agenda item? No, so we'll move on to item 9.2, I guess. A DVP for 9003 Gillum Road. Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wait for the slides to come on screen. Okay, the district's in receipt of a development variance permit application at 9003 Gilman Road to vary our retaining wall maximum height regulation from 2.0 meters to 6.5 meters. The subject property at Gilman Road here, it's quite a rural residential agricultural area, approximately 3.4 kilometers south of downtown Summerland, so in the southern portion of the community, just for kind of context of where this is. So the proposed retaining wall system you can see on this site plan here is a two-wall retaining wall system to basically level out the backyard space of the property. You can see the existing house on the site plan, and as well the existing contours on the subject property that goes down up to a vineyard that's actually in the rear yard. And the intent from the property owner is to flatten out that sloped area to create more of a usable outdoor living space, as well as to allow for a potential pool to be constructed in our backyard. And you can see that as well on the preliminary plan. So the two proposed retaining wall that are proposed on that site plan, as I just shown, the first one's measured at a height of 3.2 meters, and this is just an elevation drawing of both. And then as well, the second wall is measured at 3.2 meters with only a minimum horizontal separation distance between those two walls of 2 meters between the two walls. And this is just another plan view, elevation view of the proposed retaining wall. As you can see that it steps back 2 meters, so 3.2 meters up, then moves back 2 meters, and then 3.2 meters up again with a fence to be constructed. According to our zoning bylaw, which I'll get into here, that if the setback distance is less than 2-to-1 ratio, we consider it one wall. And it's for that reason, like we're looking at a much larger wall in terms of the actual variance within the zoning bylaw. So just the relevant sections of the zoning bylaw, our maximum height for retaining wall is under section 5.54. And then section 5.52 deals with the minimum horizontal distance between the two walls being 2 times the height of the lowest wall. So if the lowest wall is 2 meters, we need a minimum of 4 meters. And that picture's in our bylaw is just an example of that 2-to-1 ratio. And it's this section though that clarifies for interpretation purposes, section 5.53, that if the horizontal separation distance is less than 2-to-1, we consider, for the purpose of calculating height, both retaining walls to be one wall. And it's for that reason we're looking for that variance of 6.5 meters. So in terms of comments from internal staff, we didn't have any significant comments from staff, just that a building permit is required and it will be required to be engineered, which the applicant is aware of. And so in terms of discussion, staff note that the retaining wall will be located in a fairly rural area in the backyard of a rural property that does not back onto another residential property. The property to the east of this subject property is a farm parcel. You can see it here at 52114 with significant orchard area between where the proposed wall is to their nearest building on the other side of the property. In addition, the property to the south, the neighboring residence at 9007 Gilman Road, is orientated further front to the front yard of 9003, and they as well wouldn't have a significant view impact from the proposed retaining wall that would be facing the backyard. So in terms of neighborhood impact, which is our primary concern with the visual impact of large retaining walls, there shouldn't be a significant amount of concern from this wall being constructed in this area. As well, staff note that due to the significant grades that exist on the property, it is reasonable that the owners will want to create a more functional backyard space. As well, we note that there are some stormwater issues on the property right now, and this potentially could be remediated from the retaining wall design through it being engineered and captured from the retaining walls system, and also through a professional engineer. So on that basis, we are recommending that council issue this DVP to allow for a maximum height of 6.5 meters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. So in the bylaw, it says that if your wall is over 2 meters, then you double the distance between the two walls. So in this case, it's 3.2. Would that distance not have to be 6.4 meters between the distance between the two walls?
Yeah, no, through your worship to Councillor Patton, that's correct. If they were trying to conform with the zoning bylaw, in terms of the section 5.53, they would still require the variance to the 2 meter height setback, or a maximum height to 3.2. So there would still be a variance required, but they could be compliant with 5.53.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any further, Councillor Peak?
This is a general question. In the opportunity we're giving to do approvals at a staff level, is this one that would be at a staff level, or would this one still come to us?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sorry, through your worship to Councillor Peak. I think the scale of the variance from 2 meters to 6.5 is probably more significant than what we would consider a minor. We still haven't really figured out exactly what we're going to be including for criteria for what would be a minor variance. We did circulate this variance to adjacent landowners, and we had some inquiries from one, but no real concerns. So that's why you don't see any correspondence in the agenda tonight. So it potentially still could have come to council.
Thank you. I appreciate that discussion and clarity.
Any other questions? Councillor Barkwell?
Following up on Councillor Peak's question, I'm wondering if we should survey council and see if they would expect something of this significance to come to council, or whether they'd be comfortable in having staff approve this one, as maybe providing some guidance for staff on how they set their criteria.
Well, maybe staff at a future date could bring a few like this, a few example ones, and for us to check yes or no. That might be a better approach than going off topic right now. Councillor Betts.
Thank you through the mayor. I appreciate the development department's consideration of the neighbors, especially in thinking about whether or not to approve this file. And as such, I have no hindrances against it.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Move the staff recommendation.
Okay, that's to vary from 2 meters to 6.5 meters. Second, Councillor Traynor. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. Item 9.3, DVP for 10818 Adams Avenue. Director of Development Services.
Yeah, thank you. Primarily with this one, I just want to introduce Shannon Toohey, who will be leading our presentation on behalf of the Development Services Department. She's our new planning technician. She started here with us in September of this year. Really excited to have Shannon here with us. She's been a resident of Summerland for the past 8 years. She's got a young family here in Summerland and has been previously working as a planning technician with the city of Kelowna. So we're definitely excited to grab her as well because she comes with a lot of experience and she knows our community quite well. So thanks, Shannon.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes, and good evening, Council. The district has received a development variance permit to decrease the minimum required front yard setback from 6 meters to 5.24 meters at the property of 10818 Adams Avenue. The property is designated in the OCP as low-density residential, which is intended to accommodate infill development within mature neighbourhoods, such like Adams Avenue. This property is also zoned medium residential, RSD1. The applicant is wishing to enclose the existing carport to create an attached garage. This is to increase the footprint of the new garage to allow adequate parking and household storage. This will also allow for the second floor bedroom living area space directly above the carport to mirror the increase of 2.5 feet. The layout design shows the variance proposer falls within in line with the existing entry steps, as you can see on previous proposed, as well as utilising the maximum side setback that was not previously used. The eave on the north side of the proposed extension, although projects into the setback, to 0.74 meters. It is within the projection bylaw of 4.2.1A, allowance of up to 0.6 meters. The site photo here shows the existing carport with no means of security, storage, and limited use. Reducing setbacks on residential properties can disrupt the form and character of a neighbourhood and is established street rhythm. However, the variance proposed is minor in nature and would support compatible infill development throughout the street. Existing dwelling is positioned centrally in a local street classification. The encroachment into the front yard setback does not pose a traffic line of sight issue, and it is not out with the current sightings of the other adjacent properties. The proposal of driveway parking and foliage planting beds will be in place for a buffer to the property line. The existing dwelling is currently sited as a residential medium lot, RSD1, front yard setback of 6 meters. And the current dwelling is actually sitting at 7.16 meters, with a request to be sited to be reduced to 5.24. Both ground and second level additions are designed to allow for a flush horizontal finish. In summary, staff is recommending that Council authorises issuance of the proposed development variance permit for the property located at 10810 Adams Avenue, and that a variance to the front yard setback be granted from 6 meters to 5.24. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Peak?
Thank you, Worship. Were there any comments received from the neighbouring properties?
Through your worship to Councillor Peak. No, it was circulated on the 10th of November to the 60-metre radius There was no comments back, and there was no problems or concerns from our internal and external referrals.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just looking at this design, to me, aesthetically, I think it would be an improvement upon the streetscape at this time, and with such a minor variance, I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to bring forward the motion then?
I would.
Okay, and do we have a seconder? Councillor Peak, any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 9.4, Section 57 notice for property at 13206 Kelly Avenue. Director of Development Services.
Yeah, I don't have a presentation, but I'll just run through a bit of the background here on this property. So this subject property is located on the west side of Kelly Avenue, across the street from the Aquatic Center. It's right now currently a commercial building that's being used for a denture clinic, and was originally renovated as personal services office space in 2008 by the previous landowner. All required permits and approvals were in place at the time. However, in March of 2018, new property owners purchased the property and relocated their existing denture practice to the location. Upon a business license inspection in 2018 performed by our fire department, it was revealed that a residential dwelling unit was constructed in the building without the necessary building permit approvals. We reached out to property owners on many occasions trying to clear up this matter. First, during the start of COVID, recognizing that there was some concerns with COVID as well as health impacts, we gave them some time to try to deal with the situation, and they ended up hiring a contractor to provide an estimate as to the work that would be required to bring the dwelling unit that's currently, I should say, being occupied up to conformance with the BC Building Code. Following an estimate being provided, the owner did indicate to us that due to the amount of work that would be required to bring the unit into compliance with the building code, that they didn't believe they wanted to proceed with bringing that residential unit into compliance with our building permit, nor submit a building permit. And as well, we still believe that the property owners are residing within the building full time. So on that basis, we're recommending that council move forward with providing a notice to the property owner to register a Section 57 notice on title, to direct the corporate officer as well to file that notice under the community charter. Specifically, this section of the community charter allows the building inspector to recommend placing a notice in title if there is an unsafe situation that they deem to be unsafe because there has been no permit issued for one instance, or as well that there is a renovation or some sort of work that's been done to a building to make that building potentially unsafe. And so in both those cases, they would apply to this current situation where there's a residential dwelling unit that hasn't been given the necessary inspections and approvals, as well as it being still occupied by the owner. So under the community charter, we are required to provide notice, and so as part of the resolution before council tonight is to provide 30 days notice up to the council's next meeting of January 9th, 2023 would be the appropriate meeting to come back to council before we can move forward with filing of that notice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question through our corporate officer. When we register a Section 57 or to our planner, the cost, is that passed on to the landowner? of registering the section 57 at land titles?
Brad?
Through your worship to Councillor Van Alphen, I don't think we can recover that cost unless we were ultimately ending up in court at a later date. Unfortunately, that's just the cost of doing enforcement business.
If further, and just further to that, it's, this was identified back in 2018. Sounds like they've had a lot of time to maybe address this concern and chose not to, I guess. So I appreciate staff giving them the leeway and the benefit of the doubt to try to come into compliance, but obviously hasn't happened. Thank you.
Councillor Trainer.
At the January 9th meeting, is that when we would hear from the landowner if they want to speak?
Through your worship to Councillor Trainer, yes, that's correct. So under the legislation, we have to provide notice to the landowner before we apply the notice. In order for them to come and speak to behalf of council to see if they can appeal to your concerns.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Brad, I realize it was done without permit. What are the life safety issues?
Through your worship to Councillor Patton, I unfortunately I don't have Don Booth here, our building official who's been inspecting it, as well as our fire inspectors, to detail exactly what the life safety issues were. I do know in talking with Don, as well as our fire department, that they were significant in terms of the violations of the BC Building Code. I think there's some issues with separation as well from the existing commercial space being of concern, because none of this was designed for a residential unit. It was all commercial space. I think there was some substantial renovations required.
Yep.
So come January 9th, the owner has an opportunity to address council. Now, my question being is, if it's a health and safety issue, are you going to proceed with an injunction for removal? Because if it's such a life safety issue, just putting a section 57 on title has done absolutely nothing to remediate the issues. So I guess my question being is at that January 9th meeting, is that where the building department may look at bringing forward to proceed that we do the section 57 notice on title, but the second step is that we pursue an injunction?
Through your worship to Councillor Patton, I think that's something we could discuss as an option on January 9th. Maybe provide that as an alternative resolution to council. I think council is willing to go that direction. We can pursue that direction. I think we do have a bit of a historical practice of trying to work with builders as much as we can to try to bring them into compliance. And Section 57 is kind of the next step, like you indicate. But if we want to get more aggressive, we can go fully to the injunction step based on that discussion.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, so council's going to be used as a quasi-judicial board in regards to that, right? So I guess my question was you've noted in here that that it is a life safety, not imminent life safety, just a life safety issue. So that's what I was wondering is, where are you going to continue? Because if it's an issue, and it's been since 2018, so we're looking at 4 years now, we're moving into the 5th year now. I guess we have to look at some way of remediation and just not following previous practice of saying, well, it's there, no permit was done, so the next owner will take responsibility. And realistically, that owner buys the Section 57 and he can live with that Section 57. So we really haven't done anything to rectify the issue. And I've had verbal diarrhea and I apologize.
So just to clarify, section 57 is basically just a warning for any prospective future buyer, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And usually like if you are purchasing a property, section 57 is something that often is cleared up with the real estate transaction. Like the buyer's lawyer will make sure that usually that there's a go forward plan before they purchase a property, but you are waiting until that property changes hands for really something to happen, and it's usually through that real estate transaction.
Thank you. And also just to clarify, Councillor Patton's comment about the life safety issues, will that information be brought forward to us on the 9th?
I can ensure that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peak, then Councillor Trainer. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Appreciate it. Some of my questions were answered with responses to Councillor Patton. A section 57 just stays in place does it just stay in place on the property, or if there is remedial work done that actually changes the underlying problems, can they come back to us?
Your Worship, Councillor Peak, yeah, that happens quite often where if there's a new owner, for example, on a property, they realize that there's a section 57 on the property, they come in, they start applying for a building permit, and they do work to comply with the code and bring it up to our current standard, then we can remove the section 57. We usually do that through corporate services department to do that.
Okay, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, so these people built without permits, and the municipality has foregone any remittance of funds for those permits or the approvals that go with them. Is there something in our bylaws that allows us to go after that permit money that has been forfeited because of this?
The only thing that we have, sorry, through Your Worship, to Councillor Peak, is the doubling of fees at the time of a building permit. When they do come in, if it's an enforcement action and they've already done the work without getting the permit in place, we have the opportunity to double the building permit fee, which allows us to seek additional revenue, I guess, if it's an enforcement matter.
And would that be automatic with a section 57 on it if they came to legalize their illegal property?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Peak, it's automatic anytime anyone does work without a permit that required a permit. It triggers that doubling of the fee.
Because I think we definitely need to, 2018 is ridiculous till now. There needs to be a mechanism for that being recognized and for the community to receive the funds they should. Thank you.
Councillor Trainer.
I can bring forward this, but I just have a comment quickly. I think the biggest thing for me is that if it's non-compliance with the BC Fire Code, like that building is in really close proximity to other buildings. And so if there was a fire, because it wasn't up to code, it could really affect people right around. So I think it's really important that, it's not a building out in the middle of nowhere. It's right downtown. So there's a lot of risk there. So if no one has any other questions, I'll bring forward the staff recommendation.
I think Councillor Betts might.
Okay, I'll do it after.
Thank you, through the mayor. I'm just wondering, is there an insurance application for the homeowner who has a section 57 on title, similar to a lien almost?
Your Worship, Councillor Betts, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how much insurance companies are become aware of section 57s. Generally, you think it would impact their insurance if it was in place and it was made aware to the insurance company. Like, I don't know how much that filters through to the different companies if there is one in place. I'm not too sure, to be honest, as to whether or not it would impact their insurance. You'd think it would be, though.
So just further to that, I think potentially bringing to light that issue with the, I won't just say homeowner because it's a business, but business owner, that they're pretty much invalidating their insurance policies. If something significant was to happen, they would likely not receive any support from their insurance company. So that might be something to bring to their attention as well.
Yeah, if I can comment on that comment through your worship to Councillor Betts, that's something that we've repeatedly mentioned to the property owner that if there was something ever to happen, they would probably be covered because of an unauthorized dwelling. That avoids a lot of insurance things that policies that are in place. So I'm sure that's been communicated a number of times by both our fire department as well as the building inspector, but hasn't resulted in any action to date.
Okay, if there's no other questions, Councillor Trenner, you want to bring the motion forward?
Sure, I'll bring forward the resolution as presented on the screens and in our agenda.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries. Moving on to bylaws for adoption. So this is 10.1. This is just up for adoption, but I'm going to recuse myself because the applicant was a member of my election campaign team. And I'll ask Deputy Mayor Traynor to take over.
Brad, do you introduce this or do we just? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I would like to.
Sure.
I do have, I did indicate before I didn't have a presentation, but I do want to indicate, provide a few slides for council's benefit, just on the background of how we got here today with regards to the zoning, because it's the previous council that oversaw the majority of the review of this zoning bylaw. I just got a few slides here. So this subject property is currently designated agriculture within our official community plan, as well as A1, a small agricultural small acreage in our zoning bylaw. And as well, currently it is outside of our urban growth area. As it did a number of years ago, was successful in receiving an ALR agricultural land reserve exclusion, and that's why you can see all the green area around it, but excluding the subject property, so it's currently not in the ALR. But the applicant has proposed, and the previous council has sought to move forward with proposed bylaw amendments for both the OCP and zoning bylaw. First of all, with regards to the OCP, to amend our urban growth boundary and extend our urban growth boundary to include the subject property, as well as change the future land use designation from agriculture to low density intensification. A bit unique for our normal process is that between first and second reading, we recommended to council that we have the applicant prepared an environmental impact assessment for this property to ensure that there was going to be area for proposed for development, because it is an environmentally sensitive area, and the applicant did go through the work of completing an environmental impact assessment over a 6-month period, and we were able to come back to council in May of this year to provide that report, as well as recommend a second reading of the amendment bylaw and also the scheduling of public hearing. So following that May meeting of 2022, the rezoning for both the OCP amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment was held at third reading. We had a public hearing as well on that same meeting. But we recommended to council at the time that adoption not move forward until such time as connection to the district's community sanitary system or the granting of a variance for a private sanitary septic system is provided by council. So just in terms of potential sewer extension, right now this property is not included or close to sanitary sewer. However, it is close to our potential connection to Deer Ridge, which has been a strategic priority of council for the past council term, but as well something that we talked about last week as part of our strategic planning session. We currently have that Deer Ridge extension in our capital plan for the next couple of years, as well as it ties into the Eco Village development. And so we're happy to move forward now with the adoption of the zoning as well as the OCP amendments for council's meeting today, so that we can move forward potentially with a design of connection into the district sanitary sewer system. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Peak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion, so the provision is that they would look to hook into whatever happens with Deer Ridge and the possibility of the Eco Village. There's nothing that provides for that direction within. Is that just background material?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Peak, this would be something that would be a technical requirement at the subdivision stage. So council can be comfortable that we can proceed with zoning as well as the OCP land use amendment while we work on with the applicant to potentially design a sanitary sewer connection as part of the subdivision review process, which would be kind of the applicant's next step.
Thank you. I'm comforted, then I'll bring that resolution forward as read within the report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Patton? Okay, any final discussion? So this is for adoption. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Can somebody, there's the mayor. We're ready for you.
Okay, business arising, anything? No?
Yeah, through the chair. So on the screen, there is all the resolutions that were made at the November 22nd and 23rd Committee of the Holes that just need to be confirmed by council. It's
Wow.
actually 2 slides, so there is more.
That's a lot. So we don't do anything with these, we've already,
No, council
Yeah.
has to confirm them, so it would be
Okay.
a vote because the Committee of the Whole actually cannot make a resolution.
oh, okay. So these are all, right, coming forward from committee of the whole. So can we just,
So you can do it all in one. So
All
it would
in
just be
one?
that the
Okay.
following resolutions from the November 22nd, 23rd Committee of the Whole meeting be confirmed, and then the resolution includes all the other resolutions.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Just that the sandy dump rate be increased to $15. That's because we are supplying potable water.
Correct.
Correct.
Councillor Peak?
So this is just a confirming bylaw for the following resolutions.
Not a bylaw, just a confirming resolution, because the Committee of the Whole actually cannot make a resolution. So
Oh.
council has, that's why we rise and report, and council has to confirm them by a vote.
I'll bring this resolution forward then.
Seconder, Councillor Betts. Any discussion on our discussions? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Any notices of motion? No notice of motion. Information items, we have 3 pieces. Does anybody want to pull anything? Don't see any. So a resolution do we have to accept the correspondence? Corporate officer? Yeah, just resolution to accept the correspondence. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Trainer, all in favor? And that's carried. Council reports, does anybody have anything? Councillor Peak?
Thank you. I want to commend the Pinnacles and the district. I took the grandchildren, we went to the upstairs at the banquet hall, and we were able to watch the soccer game. And it was really, really exciting. And there were about anywhere from 25 to 30 people there. The Pinnacles supplied all the snacks, and they gave some draw gifts. And one of my grandsons won a cap, which he was just so thrilled about. And one of the girls said to him, "Make sure your dad doesn't steal that." But it was a great opportunity, and with the big screen and Shaw hooked up, it was just marvelous. I hope we're able to do more of those kind of things, because I think as the community gets to know that they're going on, it also supported the food bank, and it was just a great time to do this.
Thank you. Should have done it for the tennis. We could have seen Canada actually win something. So. Anybody else? Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, through to our CEO, please express my gratitude to our staff, the electrical utility and public works that helped the chamber put on such a successful light up event. It was an incredible evening. The weather was more than favorable. I've been out there before in the past and just about froze to death, but it was a lovely evening. And Saturday, I had the opportunity to go for breakfast at Second Cup, that the firefighters were raising funds for the Tots to Toonies to...
Tunics and toys for tots and teens.
There you go. And later that day, I was able to go to Backdoor Winery, and I had a hearty bowl of chili that was supplied by Granny's Bakery. And it was a lovely, like I say, that whole day you didn't have to eat at home, that's for sure. There was lots to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't see anyone else. So we'll move on to 15, public comment period. Anybody? Robert?
Robert Hacking, 7720 Prairie Valley Road. So I'm just going to acknowledge, thank you to the CAO for providing, making me aware that I can have this opportunity to correct a technical error from the November 14th, 1 p.m. meeting. So I just want to take this opportunity to read my statement as it was not captured by the audio of the YouTube here. So this is in regards to November 14th, 1 p.m. council meeting, agenda item 7.1, which was the waterfront concept plan. And I want to acknowledge and thank staff for how they addressed that motion. I believe that was the right call to make there. So just regarding the public lake access at 16997 Lakeshore Drive North, the recommendation in the report is restrict dogs to on leash only. That was in the original report. This was presented as a middle ground solution, but was in fact a severe erosion and displacement from what may be the largest user groups of the site, owners who are there to bring their dogs to swim and exercise. I noted then that it was unsafe for dogs to swim or fetch while on lead. Long leads can tangle and create drowning hazards for the dogs and other users. There's also no grass, walking pathways, or trails at the site that would be practical for recreation or exercise. It's a sandy beach predominantly used for water access and swimming. In the original motion restricting on leash only, there would have been an immediate effect of making it impractical to legally swim, play fetch, or exercise dogs. The report stated from the consultants that there was an overwhelming response in both surveys to keep Horse Beach as is. Locals emphasized it as a gem and provides a quiet space away from the busier waterfront areas and should not be promoted further. Most users of Horse Beach like to relax on the beach, swim, take their dogs for a swim, and use non-motorized boats such as canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards, end quote. The occurrence of dogs swimming at the site has occurred for decades and is widely supported and accepted even among people who never use the site at all. Only 32% in the report actually support an off-leash dog ban here. At the time, on the 14th, I asked council to keep the site as is, and I still do now. This means preserving the existing historical use by owners of dogs to safely swim and exercise their family members, as well as share the site with other responsible users. Since 2016, residents have had to repeatedly and vigorously confront unnecessary restrictions to normal and acceptable activities that have been enjoyed at this site for decades. It'd be refreshing to have the district seek to preserve our chosen recreational activities as they do so for other recreational groups. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hacking. Apologies for the technology glitch the first time. Nobody on the line, corporate officer, then I'll have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Patton, all in favor? That's carried.